So today we're going to be looking at building out your multi-brand design system using strictly Figma variables. We're going to take it from the point of view of the Coke brands. We're going to look at building out our collection for brand Coke and then also one of their sub-brands Sprite before we map that into our Alias collection and then into our mapped collections. And we're going to talk about some different strategies here as well. So if you're building out your own multi-brand design system or just want to practice with Figma variables and design system setup, this is a real great lesson. Be sure to join our UI Collective community. Link will be in the description, and let's get started. Okay, so just as a quick overview as to what we're going to be going through today, is we're going to be working with the Coca-Cola company. So as we did with our first multi-brand design system using Token Studio, again, today we're just going to be using Figma variables, so no Token Studio, and we're still going to be focusing on the Coca-Cola company. Now, you can look at Coca-Cola as both a branded house and a house of brands. So they have Coca-Cola underneath it, which is a branded house, where you have Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, you got Coke Zero, you got all these different kinds of Coke underneath it. And then it also has a house of brands where, it's Coca-Cola, it's Sprite, it's Fanta, it's everything else associated with the parent company, Coca-Cola. Both are two common scenarios that you're going to face when you're building out your multi-brand design system. So today, we're going to look at building out multi-brands for Coca-Cola. So in this case, Coca-Cola, the original, Diet Coke, and then also show you how to do so with a completely separate brand, all within the same file. So we're going to be working with Sprite. In that case. So now let's get started building out the actual variables themselves. All right, so let's get started building out our variables. And we're going to start with a brand Coke collection. Brand Coke. And we're also going to make a brand Sprite collection. Brand Sprite. Now, the reason why we like to have separate collections for things like brand Coke and brand Sprite in this case, as I imagine the color schemes for Sprite and Coke are going to be completely different. Coke might not have a yellow, but Sprite does have a yellow. Also, too, if Sprite has a red, I bet you it's a little bit different. The tints and shades are a little bit different than Coke's red. So when it comes to these larger parent brands that have much different color schemes, I like to separate them out as different collections. But everything specific to Coke as a brand, so Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, will fall under the brand collection. Again, if that doesn't make much sense now, keep following along. We're going to go through this together. So we're going to start with brand Coke. So I'm going to create a color that's going to be color red 100. Again, we're going to use our 100 scale because it offers us some flexibility if we do need to add some colors in between. Oops, complete that. Let's go into red. And let's go starting with our 200. Then we'll go 300, and then we're going to go with a 400, and then a 500. Again, we're not building out an entire variable library for this, again, because that would be a whole lot of reds and a whole lot of colors, but just enough to get us started. So it's going to be, our first one will be FF59 3D. These are actually going to be pretty close to the actual colors that they use, so forgive me while I read these off my little cheat sheet here. 25. Let's go with an F5. I'll go slow enough so everyone else can follow along too. 08. Then this will be a 91,000. Then our 500 will be a 72. Beautiful. So we've got our reds. Let's now move to our grays. This will be gray 100. Let's go to our gray. This will be our 200. This will be our 300. This will be our 400. There we go. So this will be 1E, 1E, and 1E. This will be a 5-1, 5-1, 5-1. Our 200 will be a 9-4, 9-2, 9-2. And this one will be a AF, AF, and AF. Beautiful. Then let's go ahead and we're work on our greens for now. And one of the reasons why I'm doing greens is just a little bit of preface here. Is Sprite, their main color is green. So I just want to show how, different success colors compare with a parent brand color that's the same. Again, just to offer some differentiation. So we're still going to do a green for Coke as well, because I have to build all those out in our alias and map variables. So it's a little bit unconventional, but it's good to include as part of the lesson here. So this will be our green 100. Let's go into our greens. This will be our 200. This will be our 300. This will be our 400. And this will be our 500. So 500 will be our 194, 10E. At 400, it'll be our 3B. 622D. 300 will be our 527. A4 and 3. Oops, this isn't right here. So let me just see. 3, 6, 2 T's. Sorry about that. And then this one will be our 200. So our 6387, 6387, 54. And then we'll have a 95s, AE, 8A. Perfect. So we got our green scales all set up. And then let's also do one for black. So color, black, just, let's go back into black. Actually, we'll even put it in a folder. We'll just do black. So there we go. We got our blacks. And then let's add another one for basic white. There we go. Perfect. So black and white. All right. So now that we have all our colors set up, one thing we're also going to do is just to continue on the lesson and just make it a little bit more bulkier and beefier is let's add some radius scales. So we're going to start off with our radius. And then we're also going to do a 100, 200, 300, 400, and then our 500. So our none will be none, our 100 will be 2, 200 will be 4, 300 will be 6, 400 will be 8, and then let's say our 500 will be 50 in case we need that nice like pill-shaped button. So there it is. There we have just our brand code collection to start. And then next what we're going to do before we move into the mapping down to the alias and map level is to build out our brand Sprite collection. And we're going to do that next. All right, so we've got our brand Coke all set up. Next, what we're going to do, again, is just build out our brand Sprite collection. I know it's a little bit tedious, but again, it just sets the foundation. So when it comes to our alias and map collection, we know exactly what it is that we're referring to here. So very similar. Got all variables here. So we'll start off with our color. This time it's going to be tailored a little bit to Sprite's colors here. So color blue and then 100. There we go. This is going to be our 200. This is going to be our 300. This is going to be our 400. And this is going to be our 500. All right, so our 500 will be our 00388D. Our 400 will be our 004 AA2. Our 300 is going to be our 005 CB8. Our 200 is going to be our 3B6 ABF. And then our 100 is going to be our 708 9C and E. Beautiful. Okay, so we've got our blues. Next, what we're going to do is build out our yellows. So something very similar. So it's going to be our yellow 100. Let me go into our yellows here. And it's going to be 200. Again, still following the 100 scale. We're doing this again because if we do need to add some colors in between, we have the ability to do so. 500. And our 500 is going to be our 8E8 A00. Our 400 will be our C6B, C6B, A00. Again, building out a multi-brand design system is actually something that's really good to be able to include on your portfolio if you're looking for a job or anything like that. So this is a really good skill to have. 6486, 486. And I just want to encourage everyone to join our community as well on uicollective.co. So if you have any questions relating to this process that we're going through here, it's a great place to ask. Okay, so we've got our brand Sprite, so our blue and our yellow. Next, what we're going to do is let's build out a color green. All right, so let's then go into our, color. So this would be green, and then this will be 100. Let's go into our green then, 100. This will be our 200. This will be our 300. This will be our 400. And then this will be our 500. And this will eventually be the primary color for Sprite. So this will be our 006 71D. This is going to be our 00873 A. This one is going to be our 00A 857. This one's going to be our 56BA77. And then our 100 is going to be our 85CC98. Beautiful. And then just like with Coke, we're also going to have a gray as well. So let's then color. So it'll be our gray 100. Let's go with the 200. This will be our 300. This will be our 400. Actually, we're not going to have a 300, 400 actually. Excuse me. Let's only go with just a 3 for now. Keep things nice and simple. So we're going to have a 9D, 9D, and 9D. This one's going to be our 6B, 6B, 6B. And our 300 is going to be our 1F, 1F, 1F. There we go. Perfect. And of course, as we did with Coke, let's also have black. And then let's have, oops, and delete that mode. And then let's also have a white. There we go. And then as we did with Coke as well, let's add a radius. This will be a radius, so it'll be radius. The first one will be none. Let's go in, again, set that to 0. But with our brand sprites, what we're actually going to do, just because, again, just try to make it a little bit different. Whereas before, if we're going up by 2s, starting at 2, we'll go up by 2s, but starting at 1 for our brand sprite. So what we can do as number, so our 100, our 200, our 300, our 400, and then our 500. So again, starting at 1, so 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 9. Beautiful. So there we have it. We have our brand collection for our sprites, our brand collection for our Sprite brand, and also for our Coke. And now what we're going to do is actually look at mapping these into our Alias collection before we map them out into our mapped collection. All right, so now let's get started building out our Alias collection. So let's create a new collection that we're going to call Alias. And let's start off with our color variable. So color, primary, and our first one we'll do is our primary dash light. Okay, and one thing that's different here is we're actually going to create 3 modes. So let me give ourselves some space here to rock and roll. Extend this out. Where is it? There we go. So mode 1, mode 2, and mode 3. So our first mode is actually going to be Coke Classic. Our second mode will be Diet Coke. And our third mode will be Sprite. Now, the reason why I'm separating out the Cokes this time, whereas in the brand, they were all just within one, is because ideally anything that's associated with like a can of Coke, whether it's Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, whatever, it should fall within the brand Coke folder. You know, you wouldn't really need sub-brand folders for each of your different kinds of Coke. That could overcomplicate things. So with the Alias, what we're doing is we're separating out Coke and Diet Coke because they're going to have different primary colors. They're going to have different secondary colors. Whereas, again, within brand, all those different types of primary and secondary should ideally just be within like the color wheels themselves. So let's go into, if that doesn't make sense now, it'll make sense hopefully soon. So bear with me here. So let's go into our primary. Let's go with a primary then. Let's go with a primary dark. Okay, so for our primary light, again, this is Coke Classic. So we're going to want that to be, if our primary for Coke Classic, if you think about a regular can of Coke, it's something like, looks like probably the 300. So we're going to go with the 200 here. Then for our primary will be that 300, and then our primary dark will be that 400. Now for Diet Coke, again, it's a little bit different because what we're doing is we're actually assigning the primary color to be gray. Because if you think about Diet Coke, the primary color of the can is gray. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's say our primary light is that gray 100. Our primary will be that gray 200. And then our primary dark will be that 300. Then for sprites, again, make sure you don't select the green in the, so I do that all the time in the Coke collection. We'll go down to the Sprite collection. So color green 200, 300, and then our 400. Beautiful. So there we have our primary colors. And hopefully that makes more sense now as to why we separated it out, because our primary colors for Coke Classic is not going to be the same as Diet Coke, and neither will have the same primary color as in Sprite. So let's go into our secondary, or create a secondary. So secondary light. Okay. Light. Beautiful. So our secondary light, again, it depends, I guess sorry, let me delete this here. So we're going to have a secondary as well. And for Coke Classic, I guess you could make the argument that it could be white as a secondary. But for now, what we're going to do is literally just going to create, and for a secondary light, we're just going to set it to gray. So then our secondary will be our 200, and our secondary dark will be at 300. Again, so we're just really tying it back. Then for Diet Coke, that secondary is going to be that red. So our secondary light, our secondary, we'll set that to our 300, and then our secondary will be that 400. And then for Sprite, we like to have those yellows. So we're going to have our 200, our 300, and then our 400. There we go. Perfect. So there we have our secondaries. Next, what we're going to do is actually go ahead and map out our neutrals. So let's go into our colors. So we're going to have a neutral light. If I can spell neutral. Perfect. Again, for these, they're roughly going to be relatively the same. Again, neutrals don't change all that often. So let's assign, actually, let's go into our neutral and let's create another neutral. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place here. Neutral dark. So our neutral light for Coke Classic will be, again, that 100. This one will be that 200. And then this one will be that 300. For our Diet Coke, our neutral, also the same, 100 will be that 200. And then that's 300. You know what? What we'll do, we're going to make this a little bit different, actually. It'll be the 200, it'll be the 300, and then it will be the 400, because why not? And then for Sprites, let's go down here, find our grays for Sprite. So we got a 100. It'll be our color gray. Where am I? There we go. So make sure the right collection. 200. And then again, all the way down in Sprite for our 300. There we go. So, and one thing we're also going to do here as well is I like to have my blacks and whites in my neutrals, again, just to keep things organized. Not everyone likes to do it that way, but just something I do. So this will be our black. This will be our black. And then where's our color for Sprites? There we go. This will be our black. Create collection, white. Create alias, white. And then create the alias. And this one, of course, will be our, wherever it is, Sprite, our white. Beautiful. So a couple more left to do is let's go ahead and let's create our success. So our success light. Onto our success. This will be a success. This will be a success dark. So our success light, let's create the alias. And brand, yep, just want to make sure. So 200. Create alias, oops, where to go here? 300. And then 400. And again, the same for Coke and Diet Coke. 200. 300. Technically, they could have different success colors. I'll just keep them the same for now. And then Sprites, where are all our greens here? See, now this is a little bit of a tricky one. And this is actually why I included the color green. Because if we go into our primary, so our primary light is 200, 300, and 400. And sometimes if your primary colors are exactly the same as your success colors, it can cause a headache. I get lots of complaints around that when I'm working with some designers. So what you can actually do, and it's personal preference, is you can have, if you have your brand color as a certain type of green, is you can have your success colors be like just slightly different, like they're kind of off a little bit. So maybe it starts at the 100 instead of the 200. Again, it's not the best example in the world, but hopefully it helps a little bit. So 100, 200, and then our 300. Let me just make sure I pulled in the right colors here. Yeah, 100, 200, and then yeah, Sprite, so 300. So hopefully that makes sense as to what I did there. I just didn't include, I just didn't have my primary colors be the exact same as my success colors because both of them are green. I made the success colors a little bit of a different shade. And again, when you're going through and building out your own library, just be sure to do accessibility checks and all that fun stuff. So then lastly, what we got to do is go back to all variables. Is let's create a number variable for our radius, starting with none. And now what we're going to do is actually flip these into t-shirt sizing. If you're not too sure why we're doing that, I would go watch our spacing and sizing video where we cover this a little bit more in depth. Not extra small, small, medium, large, and then extra large. Beautiful. So now what we're going to do is just really going to tie this back. So for our brand Coke, this is none, and then none. They do the same. There is none. There we go. Our extra small will be our 100. Then our 100. This will be our 200 and our 200. This will be our 300 and this will be our 300. This will be our 400 and this will be our 400. And then let's just say for Coke, we can have that nice rounded corner pill shape button. But for maybe Diet Coke, we really don't want that for whatever reason. So maybe our extra large can also be like that 400 as well. So that's just kind of where it stops. Again, that's just an example. And then in sprites, let's go with our none, radius none, 100, 200, 300, 400, and then we'll go with our 500. There we go. Just wanted to make sure we got everything here. I didn't miss anything. So none, 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 100, 200, 300, 400, all the way down, all the way down. I think that looks pretty good. And apologies if I made any mistakes or clicked the wrong one anywhere in there. Beautiful. So now we have our Alias collection all set up, again, with the 3 different modes for Coke Classic, Diet Coke, and then Sprite. Now what we're going to do is actually take these into our mapped collection and then apply them to some elements. All right, now let's go ahead and build out our mapped collection. Now there's actually 2 different approaches that you can take with your mapped collection. So I'm going to create a new collection just called as mapped. And the first method that you can take is, let's just say it's our text body, is you can actually have 3 different modes. So again, very similar as before. So for Coke, Diet Coke, and then Sprite. But the issue with this approach, okay, is what about light mode and dark mode? Sure, you can add them in here, but that creates a whole lot of extra modes, a whole lot of scrolling, and a whole lot of confusion. What I actually like to do is, I just need to delete this collection, is create a collection for each of those different brands. This would be mapped Coke. And then within it, say color, so this would be text, body, is we'd actually have a second mode. So it'd be a light mode and then dark mode within it. So I know this is our mapped folder for Coke, and I can come in here and adjust the light mode and dark mode as required. It just simplifies things really. So again, the same, we are going to have a collection for, if I rename this to mapped Diet Coke, and then we're going to have a collection for mapped Sprite. Beautiful. So then let's go ahead and just go into our mapped Coke. And we're not going to focus on dark mode today. If you are curious about how to choose colors for your dark mode based on your light mode, I do have a video on that. So scroll through our profile and find it, or also put a link in the description, for that. So again, we're going to get rid of their dark mode for now. We're only focused on one mode today. So for our Coke, let's go in, let's create a number. So it'll be our headings. We're also going to do, not a number, sorry, excuse me. Delete that, it'll be a color. It'll be our headings. We're going to have an action, and we're also going to have a success. So for our Coke, our body, let's create an alias. And let's tie this back, again, not to our brand collection, but let's make sure we tie it back to our alias collection. So our alias, let's tie it back to our neutrals. And let's say maybe it's our neutral dark. maybe the same. Our Coke, neutral dark. And then our action might be that, what we want to go with here. Let's go with our neutral white. There we go. And then our success would be with our Coke. Yeah, Coke. Let's just go with our success. Sure. We can always come back and change it a little bit later on if we need to. Let's then go ahead and look at our surface. So we are going to start with our surface, primary surface, and let's also have a secondary. Let's have a success, and then an action. So our primary, again, if you think about the color of a Coke can, it's that red. So we're going to set that to our primary color. Our secondary, it could be white, it could be neutral. I'm just going to go ahead and maybe set this to our white right now. So for our brand, or alias, I can always come back and change it a little bit later on if I need to. I'm always getting lost in my collections here. So our neutral white, our success would be that, sorry, let's make sure, double check something here. So our text action, our surface secondary, you know what we're going to do? Let's just set this to our light gray for now. Better to be safe than sorry. So it'll be our secondary. Oops. Our secondary would be our neutral light. There we go. And then our success would, of course, be our text success would be our, maybe go with our success dark. Sure. And then our action, our text action would be that white. Again, because you think about an action color on a red button, which is their primary color, it's going to be that white usually. So let's set that to our neutral white. So let me just do a quick pulse check here, make sure everything's okay. Actually, sorry, I set this to neutral. I'm actually going to assign this to our secondary here. So our secondary light. Sorry about that. Success, neutral, perfect. So then what we're going to do is let's focus on our border. Create variable. So for our border, and it'll start off with our primary. Let's also go with a secondary. If you think I made any small mistakes here anywhere along the lines, I know it's a lot. Just be sure to call me out in the comments and I can address those. Action. So again, for lights, so primary, we're going to set that to our border primary will be our color primary. Our secondary will be our border secondary, or our color secondary. There we go. Our success will be our color success. And then our action will be our neutral white. If I can find it here. Always getting lost in these things, let me tell you. Our neutral white. Perfect. Secondary surface, color neutral whites. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, perfect. So then lastly, let's focus on our radiuses. This will be our radius, none. So radius, and then we'll have an extra small. Let's also have a small, and then a medium, a large, and then an extra large. So hopefully we know the drill by now. Let's go into our alias for our radius. This will be our none. This will be our extra small. This is going to be our small. This is going to be our medium. This is going to be our large. If I can find it, large, there we go. And then this is going to be our extra large. Beautiful. So there we have our Coke collection for our mapped Coke, again, with all our colors and our radiuses. Next, let's look at our Diet Coke. All right, so now that we have our mapped Coke collection, let's go ahead and build out our mapped Diet Coke. And just to keep things nice and easy, I already went through and all we really have to go in is apply these variables. I don't think anyone wants to watch me do all of that again. So for our text body, again, let's create the alias of this. And as we did with our Diet Coke, let me just go back and check. We had our neutral dark. And I'm just going to screenshot these just in case we need these as a reference at all. And I'm just going to drag that in to the Figma file here. There we go. Yeah, something I always like to do just in case I need to go back and reference what I did in another collection. This keeps things nice and easier. So let's go ahead with our Diet Coke. So for our body, I can see that our body was the neutral dark. And again, if we're working within the same parent brand, sometimes it's good to keep things nice and consistent. So I'm going to go into our text body, our alias, and then let's go with not our mapped, our alias. Let's go with our neutral dark. There we go. Our headings also are neutral dark. Alias also our neutral dark, and then our action will be our. Now I gotta think carefully about this one, because if our action for Coke is white, which will be on a red button, again our primary color for Coke was red, but our primary color for Diet Coke was gray. So maybe you want to add some differentiation for our text action and actually set that to our primary color. Just a little bit different there. And then, but our success, of course, can stay the same. Color, success. There we go. Color, success. Beautiful. So let's go surface. So our primary for Diet Coke, again, as I said before our primary was that red color, but our Diet Coke's a little bit different. So we're actually going to set that to our secondary color. So let's maybe go with our secondary there, our surface primary, and then our surface secondary for our Diet Coke. It could either be like that red or that white, I think, but maybe, what do we have it here? For our surface secondary, we had a secondary light. So maybe we'll set it to our primary light. And then for success, our success can stay the same. So I had my success dark. And then our text action will have as our white, as our red, or our surface action. It will be that red. Our primary, our surface action will be that primary. Okay, beautiful. So our surface secondary, we're actually going to set this to our neutral white. Yeah, we always come back and we can tweak it later. But again, just didn't want the action in the secondary to be too similar. So then our border, so our primary will match our what we had for our surface primary, which in this case is going to be our primary, and then our secondary will be our border white, alias white. There we go. And our success will be the same as here. So our color success. Beautiful. And then our action will match that of our action. Actually, sorry, let me go back and take a look here. So I actually made a quick mistake. Is that our action, because if it's Diet Coke, it shouldn't be that primary light. We'll have it as that secondary light. And let me just see if I made an error here in our mapped Coke, and I think I did. So our action should actually be the red, our alias red. So our alias primary, So my apologies about that. And then we're actually going to adjust our white as well. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. So apologies for any confusion there. So, and again, that's just part of the process when you're building out your multi-brand design system, is you're never really going to get it right first try. It's about seeing where you maybe messed up along the way and going back and making some tweaks as you go along. And our action, again, we'll have that the same as our secondary. As our surface action, our secondary lights. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Again, if I think I messed up anywhere else here, just feel free to call me out along the way. Okay, so then let's go into our radius collection. So again, what we're going to do is map this back to our alias. So our alias radius none, our radius. I really wish they had some features of functionality here that's very similar to Excel, where I can sort of drag down a corner and it does the rest for me. But Figma is not there quite yet. Small, medium. large. Then we got our extra large here. Beautiful. Okay, so there we have our mapped Diet Coke. Next, let's look at our Sprite. All right, so now let's go ahead and actually bring in or map down our Alias collection from our Sprite to our mapped Sprite collection. So let's create an alias here. Starting off with the body. Again, I've already gone through and just built out the rest, so you don't need to watch me go through and do that again. So alias, and what's one thing we notice here right off the bat is within our alias, all we're seeing is our Coke colors. So if we go back to our alias, and the reason being is it's really just pulling in that first mode. Figma has not yet been able to evolve to the point where maybe I can select the specific mode for the colors that I want to see, which makes it really, really, really difficult if you're mapping colors back to your alias for a completely different brand. That can cause a little bit of a headache. So what I actually like to do is just screenshot. I like to screenshot everything and then just bring it next off to the side here. Again, just so I can see what colors and everything that I used, and I can really just pull that in. Oops, I should probably bring in the full screenshot. Forgive me, so I can see the names on the left-hand side as well. So there we go. So it's a little bit of a pain to do, but, it is what it is right now with the current state of variables. I'm sure it's just a bug that Figma's working through, and eventually they'll release a solution for that. But until then, this is really what we have to work with. I know it's a little bit unfortunate here, but hey, tools and tricks of the trade. So let me go back into our mapped Sprite then, and let's rock and roll. Okay, so let me actually move this back, give ourselves some more space so we can blow this up. All right, so for Sprite, let's take a quick look, and let me just compare what I did for Diet Coke. So with our primary, we got our secondary for our text, or our neutral dark. And I think something similar will work as well. So I'm going to create the alias for our body, and we're going to set that to our neutral dark. Our alias, our neutral dark, I think that's fine. For our headings, let's just do a quick comparison as to what we did as well. So it was also the neutral dark. Our alias, which is also the neutral dark. Oops, we'll go back into our map Sprite, which will also be our neutral dark. Our neutral dark, and then our action, of course. So when it comes to our action, our text action, think about it. If it's a Sprite can, so on a green background, we want that to be white. So what we can do is in our alias, it will be mapped back to our white. So then for our success state, now this is our success text. This is where it can be a little tricky, because if our primary color is that green in Sprite, maybe we want our success text to be a little bit darker. So maybe what we can do is set that to our success dark. I think that's fine. So then for a surface primary, what we're going to do is just go back and take a look here. So it was that primary. We'll go with the alias primary. Again, this is why it's great to have a screenshot next to it, because it's only really showing you the red colors. So I can go back and reference, okay, what is the primary color? It's the green 300, and this is the shade that I really wanted. So I know I have to apply primary to this one. Then for our secondary, secondaries are yellow. I can see that this is the shade of yellow that I really want. So our surface secondary is not going to be the secondary light or secondary dark. We'll just say it's going to be the surface secondary. Actually, you know what? Maybe just to change things up a little bit. Maybe we'll go with that secondary, whatever it is here, our secondary light. Maybe have a little bit of a lighter background for our surface secondary. Our surface success, let's maybe go with, say, the lighter color, so our success light. And then for our action, again, think about the main color here. So that will be the primary as well, I believe. So our color primary. Beautiful. Let's then move down to our border. And so let's create the alias where it's our border. We're going to set that to our primary. Our secondary lights. Maybe we want the border for our secondary to be a little bit darker to have things stand out. So maybe, oops, not the color yellow. Excuse me. Maybe we want it to be that, what color do we use here? Maybe we want it to be that secondary dark. So I hope you see by now why it's great to have that screenshot next to it, just to compare here. So that will be our secondary dark. And then for our success, maybe we want it to be our success. Sure, our success, why not? And then for our action, maybe we want it to be the same color as our primary, which in this case would be our green. So let's set that to our primary. So primary, success. I think that's fine. So there we go. And then let's just map these down to, again, still with our alias collection. Just make sure we apply the right ones. None. There's our alias. Extra small. Small. Medium. Large. And then we have our XL. Let's make sure I mapped these right. Yeah, it looks like I did. Beautiful. Okay, so now that we have all of these setups, we have our mapped collections, again, which can have our light mode and dark mode. And maybe just to make sure we're all aligned here, to say this is our light, and then our mapped Diet Coke is already our light, and our mapped Coke already our light. And again, this method allows you to really easily add a dark mode theme as well, as I had mentioned, but we're not going to go through that right now. And again, as I mentioned, I do have a video where it covers dark mode theme. I'll put a link for that in the description, so be sure to check that out. Next, what we're going to do is look at actually applying these colors to some elements real quick. All right, so now let's look at how to apply these variables to some elements. But if you did opt for the other way of building out your mapped collection where everything's just in one, you're not worrying about your light mode or dark mode too much, I'll show you how to apply those color elements as well, because it can be a little bit confusing sometimes. So, okay, so what I have here is just a simple button with a white background with some text. And let's add a quick fill. That will be our surface primary. And then let's add a, what do you want to do? A text action. There we go. I think that looks like a pretty good button. So, and you'll see that when I went to go and apply those colors, it's because it's the Coke Classic colors that are showing. And that's because my frame is currently set to the alias of Coke Classic. If I was to change this to Diet Coke, it changes the Diet Coke colors. And if I was to change this to Sprite, it goes to the Sprite colors. Now, where it gets confusing is you did opt for the other way of building out your mapped collection. What I did here is I just created a new mapped collection, just with an example, was all within one. So we were Coke Classic, Diet Coke, and then Sprite. Now, if I go into apply, I have to select these. Let me go through and select that map, just so it's just that surface for now that I did. Is what I actually now need to do is I actually now also need to apply the specific brand at that specific mapped level. So I have the alias and then the mapped. So if I want to change it to Diet Coke, I would have to, and if I want to change it to Sprite, I would have to as well. So it just adds that additional layer. So if you did off that secondary mapped approach, that is also how you apply your colors variables correctly. Thanks for watching today's video, everyone. Just want to encourage everyone to sign up for online Slack community at uicollective.co. I'll put a link in the description for any questions you might have on tokens and variables, design systems, general Figma. We have bi-weekly events as well on design systems and Figma, variables, tokens, whatever you need. And two, there's lots of great free resources available on our website for you to dive into. So thanks for watching today's video. I hope to see you in the Slack channel, and talk soon.